Morning, 2G, and happy Thursday. I hope you're having a great week. I wanted to start off by giving David a shout out. I noticed that when I was in our Google Classroom earlier, I saw that David, you had put a comment under the first part for chapter 3. And your comment was, I wonder if there is another China. And I just thought that was so awesome. And I encourage that. If you have questions or comments about the book as I'm posting the read alouds for the chapters, please comment, just like we would normally if we were in the classroom together and we were discussing the story. So let's go ahead and continue reading chapter 3, and maybe we will figure out the answer. All right, let's go. My goodness, Mrs. Pigeon said after a minute. There's a China in Texas? Correct, said Goonie Bird. And what else? There's a China in Maine? Correct, said Goonie Bird. And California. There's a China Lake. Oh, and my goodness, look, in North Carolina. And now it is time to continue the story, Goonie Bird announced. Where were we? Oh, yes, I remember. The moving van had just left China. She took up the story again. After the moving van left China, the Green family loaded up their station wagon with 5 big suitcases. Then they added a lawnmower that they had forgotten to put in the moving van, a cooler full of ham sandwiches and iced tea, a bundled up stack of National Geographics, and an orange and white cat named Catman. That's a cute name. Who had no tail because he had flicked his former tail once under the lawnmower. The last thing they put into the station wagon was a rolled up rug from the front porch of their house. It was too long to fit. They tried it sideways and folded and upside down, but it still wouldn't fit. Let's leave it behind, Mr. Green suggested. But Miss Green began to cry. It was my mother's, she said. There's a stain on it where my mother spilled some black bean soup 40 years ago. I feel sentimental about this rug. So the word sentimental is used when you're talking about something that is really important to you, something that's special. So it has a sentimental value because of, to Mrs. Green, because it was her mom. So every time she sees that rug, it makes her think of her mom. Okay, that's what they mean when they say sentimental. So Mr. Green agreed to take the rug because it made him cry too if his wife cried. He decided to put the back window of the station wagon down so that the end of the rolled up rug could stick out. He made certain that everything was nicely arranged and that Catman had a comfortable place to sleep on the back seat, just beneath the end of the rug and next to the place where Goonie Bird would sit. Mr. Green and Mrs. Green and Goonie Bird Green all got into the car and drove away from China, starting their long journey to Water Tower. They drove for many, many hours. They ate all of the ham sandwiches and drank all of the iced tea. They stopped to get gas. They went to the bathroom. They played the car radio and listened to news and operas and football games and talk shows about love relationships. Suddenly, Goonie Bird glanced down and noticed with dismay that her beloved Catman had disappeared. She looked around the floor of the back seat, but Catman was not there. She heard a small sound, like a purr, coming from inside the rolled up rug. So maybe you can go ahead and make a prediction on where you think Catman might be. She knew that Catman had entered the rug. He probably found it a warm and dark and cozy place. But Goonie Bird was worried about Catman. She decided, to try to get him out. She reached into the rolled up center of the rug, but he slithered away, beyond her hands. She looked at the backs of her parents' heads. wondering if she could tell him about the problem with Catman. But her mother was dozing and her father was driving, watching the road carefully and listening to a radio program about whales. So Goonie Bird decided to wiggle into the rug herself to rescue Catman. "Oh no!" Kiko cried. "I'm going to faint." "Shh," the other children said. It was dark and dusty and a very tight squeeze inside the rolled up rug. But Goonie Bird wiggled inch by inch toward Catman. Catman slithered away, inch by inch. She could see his glittering eyes as he backed away from her hands. Goonie Bird was determined to rescue him. She continued forward. Suddenly, an amazing thing happened. Even though Goonie Bird was not very large and did not weigh very much and was not wearing her heavy diamond earrings from the palace that day, her weight inside the rolled up rug caused it to tilt. At that moment, Mr. Green leaned forward to change the radio station, and the car went over a pothole in the road. The rolled up rug, containing both Catman and Goonie Bird, slid out of the back of the station wagon and flew through the air before it landed at the side of the road in some thick grass beside a fence post. Oh my goodness. A cow chewing a purple flower looked curiously at it and then wandered off. The station wagon drove on around a curve in the road. Slowly, the rug unrolled. Catman's fur was standing on end, and if he had a tail, his tail would have been sticking straight up in the air. For a moment, Catman stood still, looking at Goonie Bird. Then he ran away very fast. Goonie Bird sat up. She was not entirely sure what had happened, but she was not hurt. She simply wondered where her family was, and her cat, and the car. Other cars stopped, and people got out. Many people offered her a drink of water from their bottles of Evian. But Goonie Bird wasn't thirsty. After a while, a police car with a flashing light came. A TV reporter came, and a cameraman. While the policeman talked on his radio, the TV reporter, a woman with very large hair, interviewed Goonie Bird and called her the little girl who had a flying carpet ride. In the interview, Goonie Bird described Catman and asked people to call the station if they found him, but she never got Catman back. Eventually, the police car took her to her parents, who were both crying at a gas station 4 miles down the road. When Goonie Bird and her parents were finally reunited, everyone, including the 2 policemen, a TV reporter, and the gas station owner, hugged and kissed and did the tango. The end. "What a lovely story," Mrs. Pigeon said, "and an exciting one, too, but a little sad to lose your kitty that way." "Catman is not a kitty," Goonie Bird said. "He is a cat. And I didn't say that I lost him. I just said that I never got him back." "So no one found him and called the TV station?" "Actually, they did," Goonie Bird replied. "But where is Catman now?" asked Mrs. Pigeon. "He was consumed by a cow," Goonie Bird said. "But that's a different story." "By a cow? You're joking," Mrs. Pigeon said. "No," said Goonie Bird, "I'm not joking. I tell only absolutely true stories." "Tell it! Tell it!" the children called. "I will," Goonie Bird said. Another day. All right, dun dun dun. That's all for today, 2G. I hope you have a great Thursday. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Maybe we'll hear another one of her crazy, silly stories. I miss you. Hope all is well. Bye.